Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. This is the second half of the interview with Tamara von Dohren. If you haven't listened to the first part, go back to episode 75, where Tamara talks about the tall poppy syndrome, embracing our authentic self, and also the Japan, its culture and the perspective it brings on one's life. You remind me of that. It was Wayne Dyer who said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So by changing what you said about the integral of our mind to our experience, because we are experiencing everything through our. It's nothing is out there. Everything is inside here. The other thing that fascinated me about this story of the LA is you said that it started with you visualizing all those things and then you experienced them. So I think you ought to share with us your technique, your process of visualization, because it sounds to be very effective. So can you go into more detail on how, when you say you visualized, what do you mean exactly?
So it's interesting because I've always had little moments like that where I might visualize something or think about something and then something very close to, if not the exact thing, will happen. Mm-hmm. And in the past, I kind of, I guess, maybe labeled it as luck or, it's just a cool thing that happened or something. It's just because I'm social, going back to that tall poppy moment. And that particular experience in LA was really a game changer of me going, maybe this manifestation thing is for real. Maybe there is something to this. Mm-hmm. Because the process that I went through was, so I'm a very visual person. I love watching movies. I published a book when I was living in Canada, and creative writing was actually my major at university. So I'm always kind of even when I have to have a difficult conversation with someone, I will literally visualize it and role play it in my mind. So it's a process for me that I use with a lot of things, that I will literally I might zone out, or I might be when I wake up in the morning, I might take a few moments. It's like a little movie plays on in my head. Mm-hmm. Where I picture what will happen. I feel it like it's happening, and it's real for me in that moment. And that, I think, is the key thing. And you, whenever you do research around manifestation or anything like that, that is something that comes up. Another technique I use is journaling as well. So I will journal about what I'm really focusing on, what my goals are and what my commitment is to that, and write about it. Sometimes I'll even write a future diary entry, but a future journal entry for a few months' time, as if it's happened. Yeah, and I'll write it out like that. But with LA particularly, it was that visualization of in moments, maybe even a couple minutes in between a break or something at work, where I would be thinking about the trip and again, kind of daydreaming is kind of the closest thing I could describe it as. But yeah, really imagining what could happen in LA and how it would happen and how it would feel. That feeling part, I think, is a real important part of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But even I was surprised when it all happened. Yeah. It wasn't until the end of the trip that I thought back to what the things that I was kind of, I guess, fantasizing about would happen in LA, and realized that pretty much all of them had happened in some form or another. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tamara, how deliberate were you in these images that you were visualizing? Were you producing them, creatively thinking about them, or were they just appearing?
It was kind of It was kind of like, what would be the coolest thing that could happen in LA for me?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were imagining what you wanted to happen
Yeah.
deliberately. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of what do I wish would happen? And what would that look like? And how would that feel? Yeah. And that was kind of where it started from. Yeah. And then when I got to LA, all I did was just go out. I went out by myself. And just, yeah, was just open to, like, I'm a very energy driven person. So I kind of, if I meet someone in a bar and I get a good vibe from them, I'll chat to them and I'll
Yeah.
continue chatting to them, and just about anything. They're just a person to me. If I chat to someone, I get a bad vibe or they're kind of a bit of a jerk, I'll just, yeah, okay, next. Yeah. So I'll tend to go out by myself and just chat to people. And that's I think another way that kind of helps create the space for those magical moments to happen, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Uh, One last thing I wanted to briefly discuss about manifestation is I think it's a completely fascinating topic, especially hearing stories like that. I want you to tell me, what do you think about that lag time between thinking, visualizing, and manifesting? Because sometimes it can be fairly quick. Other times it seems like it's so long that it's not working. So, what's your
Yes.
experience with that?
I was literally having that thought like yesterday while walking my dog, because there are some things that I will think about and they will manifest the next day or a couple of weeks later. There are other things that I have been trying to manifest for a while that still haven't quite got there.
Okay.
And the I think the conclusion, I guess, I kind of came to is that the key to manifestation is, from my experience anyway, is having that clear vision of what you want or what you desire, and then letting go of the expectation of when it happens. So trusting that, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the things will maneuver in the way to bring that to you. And I guess some things take a little bit longer. Some of those moves take a little bit longer, like a game of chess or any game of strategy when you're moving pieces around. Some things you can make happen in a second, and other things take a little bit more, kind of maybe 5 to 10 moves to kind of get the pieces in place to kind of take the king or whatever. So yeah, it's the same thing in manifestation of just keep trusting and keep visualizing that. Yeah. Yeah. And
Thank you.
and if you reach a point where you give up, then I guess you'll never know. But it's there's the way I see it is there is no harm in spending 2 minutes a day visualizing something that is that freaking important to you.
Yeah. And in the end,
Nothing
I
to lose.
think the important thing, the most important thing, and you already mentioned that, let go of the expectation. The important
Yeah.
thing is to enjoy the process, because
Yeah.
our life is always the process. It's never a point, an expectation, an achievement, because
Yeah.
that passes immediately and then you carry on with something else. But that's a big realization for many people, and also the one that you have experienced and we talked about, which is how we are perceived, or we think we are perceived about others. The majority of people, I think, live their life according to the expectations of others, or what they
Yeah.
think the expectations of others are.
Yeah.
So it's very there are some big major things, I think, that for most of I will be careful with my words. I will not say most, but I will say a big percentage of humanity at this moment is stuck with. And if they just go past that, I think it would be a very, I don't know, a big
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, and I think the reason a lot of people don't is because it's freaking hard sometimes to let go of expectations. It's another thing I've done a lot of thinking about just in the last couple of weeks around the stories that we create around what we desire that builds up that expectation. And it's such a difficult thing to let go of that, because it means letting go of control, or at least the perception of control.
Yes, that's another
and
big.
and that's difficult. That is freaking difficult. And it's a daily challenge for me where sometimes I have to remind myself, you're building up expectations here, Tamara. Like, let it go. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very dangerous thing. It's Tamara, let's talk about something a little bit different, and I want to ask you about your coaching. And actually, I'll go back to something I wanted to say earlier. There is a part of your mission and how you help others, and I'm just going to read that because it made a big impression the way I read it. So you say that you want to for others to never feel they have to hold back the unique superpower for the sake of others, to uncover whatever that superpower is, and to surround yourself with the right people, habits, and environment that allow that superpower to flourish. So I want to ask you about this superpower, about this unique ability that everyone has, that the listener right now has this unique superpower. Maybe they haven't believed that there is one, or maybe they haven't realized what it is. So what is a process or a first step that someone could go towards that direction?
Yeah, so it's kind of aligned, I guess. Like there's a technique that I take some of my clients through, which is it's kind of split into 4 different areas. So
Yeah.
it's what are your core values? What's your areas like your skills and expertise? So things that you have studied or learned. What are your passions, which can be personal or professional? And what are your talents? So what are things that you are naturally good at? That the things that your friends or your family are like, oh, you're really good at that. Like, what are those things? And then what are the core links? Like, what are the similarities between those? And that's a process I take people through to help them get to like, what is their why? What is their purpose? And that can really help you kind of narrow in on what your superpower might be, because that helps you hone in on what drives you. And often your superpower is very deeply linked to what drives you. So for me, my superpower is, it's funny because as I was saying that sentence, the first thing that was coming up is connection. So it's connecting people, it's connecting with people, and it's helping other people connect with themselves more. So one thing I've discovered about myself is that even though I haven't been through any kind of capital T traumas or anything myself, I spent a lot of my life seeing that kind of pain, maybe not recognizing immediately what it was, but seeing that kind of pain in people and kind of taking it on myself. So it was most noticeable for me in my relationships with men, where I would see men that were deeply hurt by something. And sometimes they'd open up to me about what that was. But I would also see them act in a way that would push people away because of that. It's like a self-protective mechanism. So my reaction, knowing that I'm very emotionally strong and getting back to one of my superpowers, knowing that I can take a lot of that emotional pain on myself, I would do the opposite to what they would expect. So I wouldn't go away. I would stay, and I would show them that they could be themselves and be real and be raw, and it was okay. And it wasn't until I kind of looked back on that years later and realized what I was kind of doing. I was helping them connect with that, and I was helping them find a space that was safe for them to be in. At the same time, though, I was sacrificing a lot of my own happiness and taking on a lot of that pain myself. So I've changed the way I do that and the way I interact with men and with people in general. But those 2 things, I think, for me are my superpowers, which is connection, both with people and helping people connect with themselves and with their own people, like the people that are like their people, because that was a big pivotal moment for me, was finding others like me. And also holding the space for people to just be themselves. And if that means going into really dark things that have happened to them, I've had people tell me horrible things that have happened to them, like capital T traumas.
Mm-hmm.
But the reaction I notice in myself is I don't flinch. And that I didn't realize until probably the last couple of months how valuable that is, and how important or how needed that is by people that have had those experiences, because not everyone can hear horror. It's kind of like horror movies. Like not everyone can sit there and watch a gory scene and not react to it. I actually hate horror movies. I used to love them as a kid, but now they terrify me. Like I don't like them. But that space of like things that are real and things that are horrible, I think because I've gone into like my fears that I had around my superpowers. So because of that connection, and this is the really important thing about superpowers, is that sometimes you do need someone to help you guide you through them, because often what's holding you back from using it, and this is how it was for me, is the fear of the dark side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, because I can deeply connect with people easily, I can build rapport, I can see that pain in them, I can see the light, I can see all the great things in people, and I know how to bring that to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
The dark side is I can also see all the pain and all the insecurities and all the anxieties. And if I really wanted to, I could reach in, pull a piece of their soul out and destroy it, and they'd never get it back. And that was always the fear for me of like, what if I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And what I came to realize about myself was that I care so deeply about people at the core of who I am, that it would take a hell of a lot. Like it would take a hell of a lot of provocation for me to get to that point where I actually do that. Mm-hmm. So it was trusting who I am to use that superpower in the right way. And that took a lot of deep inner work to get to that. So it's because I've gone into that place for myself, I now, like, that's why I'm so passionate now about helping others do that.
Thank you. You talked about inner work right now, and your own inner work. That of course our own inner work precedes helping others with their own inner work. And it is that thing you say that there are some things that need to burn in order to grow, and the messy sides of transformation, you called it. So do you want to describe that to me? What is it that needs to burn in order for us to work when we do this kind of inner work?
Well, this is often the biggest thing I think that holds people back from really doing that deep transformational work, because as you grow, it means letting go of people you love that maybe can't grow with you, or who are still encouraging a toxic lifestyle that you don't want to be a part of anymore. And that sucks. There's no easy way to put it. Like, because it's one of those tragic situations where they haven't done anything wrong. They're just being themselves, and they're where they're at on their journey. But if you want to really commit to that growth, you're going to have to detach from that. Mm-hmm. And I've had to do that with people that I love. And it wasn't easy, but it was the right decision for me. And that, I think, is the dark side of it. And also the amount of time you have to spend alone, really facing the darkest parts of yourself. And for some people, that can be scary as well. Yeah. But I think the most difficult part is letting go of people you love, failure. So I've had moments as an entrepreneur where I have literally been down to my last cents, where I've gone to the grocery store and I have to count the pennies as to how much I can afford to buy. And, you have those moments and you feel like a failure. You feel like you've completely, like you get really down on yourself. And it's not until you do that transformation work and kind of change that mindset of like, no, this is just a small piece of my journey. Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow will be like, it's always a chance to go better. But it's not easy. Yeah. And it's something that I think scares a lot of people because often they're comfortable where they are before they enter that transformation. So why would I want to leave, all the glamorous life of, working in radio and events and things like that to start my own business? Why would you want to leave that comfort to go through a whole lot of hell and leave people you love? And the answer is that I can tell you from the other side, it is so worth it. So worth it, because the connections I have with people now are so much deeper. And the conversations I have with people now are so much more enriching. And the people I work with and the work I'm doing is just so much more fulfilling. Like I get off the call with my clients and I'm just buzzing. Like I love it. And it's so, so worth it. It's not easy, but it's so worth it.
It's, the life we dream is on the other side of our fears, or that thing that we need to break free from. There is, you reminded me, there is that concept of the not to-do list, which is it's a great tool. I do it at every quarter or so, and you write down all your habits or things that you consistently do, and you root out the ones that do not serve you anymore, that somehow it have carried on and on out of habit, but they have served you in the past, but now you just need to cut them off. And it can be difficult, it can be painful, it challenges because they tend to embed in your identity, and our ego doesn't like very much having parts cut off of it. It gets very defensive.
And even on a smaller scale, if you want to look for examples of how worth it can be, think of some of the small changes you've done around like health or fitness, or moving to a new city for a job that you loved. Like there's little examples in everyone's life of changes that we've made or small pains that we've been through to achieve something where it's worth it. So it's just another example of that.
Great. Let me ask something different.
Yes.
It is, you said the communication. I want to ask about your experiences as a podcaster, and you also say you have a radio background. So tell me maybe an insight or something that you would like to share from this journey as a radio person, podcaster.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I share with a lot of my clients who have fears of presenting. So or who have fear, because the interesting thing about radio, which a lot of people may not realize, is that a lot of radio announcers have an intense fear of public speaking. Because when you're a radio announcer, you're in a box. Nobody else can see you. You can't see anyone else. So like you don't actually have faces in front of you. So public speaking is actually terrifying. When I was a kid, I did years and years of like acting and speech and drama training. So that was kind of like bred out of me from an early age. But one of the biggest techniques that I learned, or two techniques that I learned in radio, which still serve me today and I still share quite a lot. The first one was when you're kind of speaking as a radio announcer, my program director and my mentor at the time told me to put a picture of my best friend on the radio desk.
Oh, that's like
that's and just speak to that person. So speak to one person. And this can carry through to if you're doing an interview, if you're writing, if you're doing Instagram TV video or YouTube video, put a picture and just speak to that one person. So that's probably the first insight or takeaway. And then the second one, which I use a lot I used a lot in marketing. So when I worked in radio, I worked as an announcer and as a music director. So a music director basically not only listens to and then chooses what's going to be popular, so what we're going to play on the radio station, but then schedules all of the music. So in order to do that, we would profile our listeners down to, okay, what is our ideal listener doing at 3 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon? Okay, they've just picked up the kids from school. Maybe they're about to go to a play group or to coffee or to some other thing with the kids. They've got the kids in the car. They're probably a bit stressed. They're probably a bit tired. What kind of music do they want to hear? And that level of profiling, like what brands are they interacting with? Like what kind of coffee are they drinking? What kind of car are they driving? What kind of clothes are they wearing? And thinking about, again, all of those connections between those things. That in itself, that practice, I use in so many things. So I also worked as a marketing manager, and we used to do that as well. Profile down to who's our audience, what are they thinking, feeling, what other brands are they interacting with? And it's also a technique I advise my clients to use in any partnership or any communication piece. So for example, if one client I worked with in Germany was a startup looking to find their third co-founder. So I said, okay, profile them. What are you looking for? Like, are they male, female? What are their hobbies and interests? What kind of personality? What kind of skills do they need? What kind of traits? Use that as your filter. And same thing with like investors as well. People seem to think in startups and stuff that you need to get just money from anyone. And in actual fact, investors wouldn't even sit down with you unless you have something they want, which means you have negotiating power. So work out what you want as well. So filter, like come up with that profile. What kind of investor? What kind of interactions do you want to have with your investor? Do they have to have a certain skill set? Do you want them to contribute? Do you want them to guide you? How much interaction and what kind of personality type? Are they someone that's a risk taker? Are they someone that's more risk averse? What do you need from an investor? And again, creating that really clear profile and then going out to find that. Or in the reverse, creating that clear profile of who are you serving. So on my website, I have a really clear psychographic of the kind of people I want to work with. And the things I design are around that. So I'm designing things for that person. And that person is really who I was 3, 4, 5 years ago. So it's that level of profiling. So those two things, that when you're communicating in any format, speak to one person and profile right down to habits and brand interactions. Like, get down to the details. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily matter anyway, how much they're making or where they live. It matters their habits, how they think, how they feel, and what other brands they're interacting with. Because those other brands that they're interacting with, they're all potential partners for you, by the way. So there's another avenue to kind of explore. So again, it's all those connections. Yeah.
That's a great tip, actually, and a great way of getting clarity on who is it that you can serve, because at the end, with your superpower, with our superpower, we serve someone else. So, but not everyone. No one can serve everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's brilliant, fantastic. Tamara, I want also to ask you some. I call them quick fire questions, but I think I need to find the better description for them, because I don't expect quick fire answers. But anyway, I'll go with them. So be as brief or not as you want based on the question. So tell me, first of all, what does personal development mean to you?
Growth is the first thing that comes up. Yeah, just growth, whatever that means for you. And this is where I say about the unique superpower, because it can be big or small. Maybe your growth is losing weight. Maybe your growth is completely changing your mindset and your healthy habits and really going on that spiritual growth journey right to the top of full enlightenment and yogi. It doesn't matter where you want to get to. It's just growth in some way.
Fantastic. Agree. And I like what you said, your growth, because growth is one thing. It's abstract. Your growth is very specific and unique to yourself, whatever that might be. Awesome. Let's say you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self. What's the one piece of advice you would give the young Tamara?
Oh, well, the first thing is don't have that last tequila shot, but no, I think I'm not sure if it's funny because when I think back and what advice would I give to myself, I actually don't think I'd change anything. Because I don't think I would have got to this stage, and I don't think I would have had the experiences that I've had and learnt what I've learnt about myself if anything had been different. So yeah, I actually, if there's one thing I wish I'd started younger, maybe healthier physical habits. So I'm not a large person by any means. I'm lucky in that way, which is probably why I've never really focused on physical fitness. But because of that, now that I'm trying to build those habits, those healthier eating habits and those healthier physical habits, it's a little more difficult. So that's probably the one thing is I wish I'd built those into my life a bit younger.
That's great. And if you could wave a magic wand and change something in the world as it is today, what would you change?
Oh, I think the obvious one is COVID. Mainly for a little bit of a selfish reason that I love travel and I love like being in person with people and I deeply miss that. But also because I think maybe the world's almost ready to come out of that quarantine. I think it's been a great gift to the world to kind of give us that space or forced step back and forced reflection and forced to view things differently. Like in companies these days, things that before might have been deemed impossible and now we're suddenly like could happen overnight because they had to for business to continue running with people working at home. So that's opened up people to think differently about what if that's possible, and before it was impossible, what else is possible now? So I think the world's just about ready to come out of that. And I think there's potential for great things to come out of that. Yeah.
Tamara, emerging from all this conversation we've had so far, if you were to give the listener one actionable piece of advice so they can make some their growth as we were talking earlier. So what's that actionable piece of advice would be?
Yeah. Take yourself out. Do something, like take yourself out on a date, do something by yourself. Like this is something that I used to do from a young age because I was quite independent and kind of always had a bit of that. It had a bit to do too with that feeling detached from other social groups. Like I never really felt connected to people. So I would go to movies by myself, or I'd take myself out to lunch or dinner, or after work, if I'd had a long day, I'd go to my favorite cocktail bar and have a martini or something by myself. And often actually I'd get talking to people at those bars and make great networking connections just without meaning to. So I think, get comfortable with being by yourself and treating yourself the way you would want to treat others. Like I buy myself roses every week, and I've started to prioritize having a hot bath with in Japan they have hot springs are a big thing here, and you can actually buy sachets of it here, of the salts. So I put those in the bath. But yeah, start with something small by taking yourself out on a date.
It's great advice, and the way we express our self-love shows in all other areas of our life. So we have to fill our own cup first, otherwise we can't really pour to anyone else. If we drain ourselves, there's not much left to give to others. And
exactly,
it's great to take some time for ourselves. There's nothing selfish about that. It's necessary for others.
I actually call it being selfish to be selfless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tamara, do you want to share with us a a mistake that you've recently made so we can avoid making the same mistake.
Oh, recently, inconsistency.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with a bit because part of me is like, I want to have a plan and I want to do things regularly. But then another part of me is like, I want to enjoy life and be creative and spontaneous. So trying to find that balance is sometimes a challenge for me. But I have noticed that it is important to have a balance between, okay, today I need a rest day to watch movies and do nothing. But tomorrow, I need to get back into the habit of writing every day, writing an article 2 or 3 times a week for LinkedIn, for example, or posting on social media with inspiring things and things that are serving my potential clients more. Because that's something that I was consistently doing for a few weeks, or probably a couple months actually, and then dropped off from. And now I'm like, okay, now it's time to get back into it.
Yeah.
So give yourself permission to have those rest days when you feel you really need them. But yeah, get back into that consistency as soon as you can, because it's very easy to get off it and stay off it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gets difficult to get back on it the longer
Exactly.
you leave it. Yeah. We have talked about so many things, and it's been a truly intriguing conversation. Tamara, is there anything you were really hoping I would ask you today and I completely missed it?
No, I think we discussed, like, I literally had 3 points written down on my piece of paper here: transformation, self-awareness being key, and mindset being key. And we've talked about all of that. So yeah, it's been great to have that conversation and to share some things on this platform that I haven't previously shared before. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's my pleasure. It's we were talking about your superpower earlier, and I bring that to people. I have been told that I bring that to people, and it's a great feeling to have and do it like that. Can you share how can people find out more about you? How can they connect, and what are you up to at the moment in terms of your coaching business?
Sure. So thelonewolfcoach.com is the website. And I'm mostly active on Instagram as well, which is at Tamara Lone Wolf, and it's LONE, like lonely. So Tamara Lone Wolf on Instagram, or thelonewolfcoach.com. And at the moment, actually, so I just completed the positive intelligence training with Shazad Chamini, which is because one of the things that I discovered about myself was that the more I was developing my coach skills and my ability to help and serve others, the better my negative side of my brain was getting at using that against me. So basically what it came down to was that the only one holding me back from kind of achieving the next level of things I wanted to achieve was myself. And I was talking to a fellow coach, a colleague, about this, and he recommended the positive intelligence training. So I've just completed it. It was a 7-week program, and it was a game changer. So even in the first couple of weeks, and basically what the program is built around is it's kind of building up the different neurological pathways in your brain. So it's neuroscience backed. Basically, you've got 2 pathways. So one pathway leads to what they call the saboteur side of the brain, which is like the negative thoughts. And these are all the kind of thoughts and things that have been set up to protect you, basically. So things like judgment thoughts or controlling thoughts or restless thoughts, they're all there to protect you, but they hold you back as well. And it's set up with like simple, what they call reps. So it's kind of like a mind gym, and it's built around mental fitness to build up the strength of the other side of the brain, which they call the sage side of the brain. So instead of focusing on the negative, the sage side is more discerning. So it focuses on, okay, what is the gift in this? What is the lesson? What can I learn from this? Rather than just berating you with negativity. So it's a 6-week course, 7 weeks as a coach that I did. which teaches you how to weaken that negative side and strengthen the positive side through like simple reps. They're like 2-second reps that you can do in a meeting or you can do on a call that will help you kind of like stop that negative thought and then change it across to the sage side. So that, again, with the self-awareness was a really pivotal part of that. So I've just completed that training and actually have gone into the further part of that training, which allows me to then offer it to other people. So I've just launched a program around that, which includes a seat in the 6-week program, which is valued at $995, and weekly coaching during the program, and then for a further 6 weeks afterwards. So because I get the seats for free, I'm only charging for my coaching time. So it's $950 US for the 3 months. And you can find details of that on the website at thelonewolfcoach.com. So that's my big thing that I've just launched. There's only 5 places. But yeah, I'm really excited actually to take some clients through that training, because having just been through it myself, I know it works and I know how pivotal it was for me. So yeah. It's exciting to share something that you know has had impact on you. I think it's more meaningful, yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can relate. That's why you see me nodding all along.
Yes.
Tamara, I want to thank you very much for this conversation we had today. It's been truly intriguing and very much enjoyable as well. I want to wish you all the very best with your work, with your mission, and with keeping on finding that fine line in Japan between your authentic self and your, your need to not to offend anyone. Any parting words?
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have such a great conversation with you and to have the opportunity to share this with people. And yeah, it'd be great to connect with more people. If this has resonated with you, please reach out either on LinkedIn. LinkedIn or Instagram is probably best, at Tamara Lone Wolf, or the website. Yeah. And thank you again.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and rate Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to become part of an exclusive community, gain access to unique content, and at the same time support this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpat. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,